Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's episode we're going to be taking a look at the NEA folder and setting up a bank of pages where you can start flood filling information and putting in things like investigation and a space for your design ideas to go. Now, we've done tutorials similar to this in the past where we've shown you ways in which you can set up places like Google Slides, for example. But this one specifically looks at the whole process of preparing our folder. Some students are asking the question of what kind of information do I have to put on what page, and how many pages do I have to create, and how do I know what to do when, and I'm struggling with time management. So this video helps to answer all of those questions. Let's get started. Okay, so what we've got here is a time lapse of me creating a template, a generic template that goes through some of the ideas that I think I would find useful for developing a design folder. And I'll walk you through my design process. It took me about 35 minutes to create this from start to finish. Like I said, I use Google Slides. It's a free program. If you're accessing the internet, you should have access to Google Slides. And if you want any more further guidance on that, then hit me in the comments below and I'll be able to answer those questions for you. Okay, so let's start this up then, and I'll walk you through the process. So here we go. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm setting up page layout. In fact, I might not be able to see that there. So it goes File, down to Page Setup, and then I go to 42 and I go 29.7. Now that is the standard size of an A3 sheet of paper, so when you come to print your work, it'll print A3. Okay, so like you've seen in a previous tutorial, I start off by adding a few shapes in there. I change the background from a white to a grey to give me a nice little contrast, and I change the box on the top to being white. Now the reason for that is, if I print off a blank sheet, then I've got a blank sheet of paper to be able to draw or write on by hand. So it's great for design pages. You can see there at the bottom I've created myself another little bar, and I've placed in there three things: my name, my candidate number, a 4-digit number which is associated to each individual student, and my centre number. I've decided to change the font to make it my own, because as designers, not only are we designing the folder, but the actual stuff that goes inside it as well, but the outside, the folder itself, needs to have a little flair to it, in my opinion. So here I am generating or trying to create up a title there. I realise it's upside down, so twist it, put it on its side, try putting a title there. Now the goal here is to create what I would call the home page. Now the home page for me is a generic slide that I could copy and paste when I need it, and it's got pretty much all the basic information on there. Now when I talk about basic information, I talk about that bottom slide there that talks about my name, my candidate number, and my centre number for the school. A titles area, so I can put a nice title in there so I know what I'm doing on each page. A space for a conclusion, and possibly even a space for an introduction as well. And then I even add a little flair to it, a bit of colour coding, and link it to make it all sort of flow together. And then all I have to do is just copy and paste them. So I quite like this idea of this break in the lines, and that's the designer in me there. But so I create that. I'm not happy with it because when I drop it down and make it the right size, you'll notice in a moment that I keep playing with the size of it, scaling things up and down. And I realise there's a little piece of the white background that creeps over the top, and that I just couldn't have that. The obsessive compulsive order just jumped in and said, no, we're going to have to change that. So yeah, I lowered it down. I also thicken the lines up a little bit. I can change the weight of the line and make it my own. Now this bit here is crucial. I create a little box, turn it grey or turn it coloured, and I give it the title Conclusion. I change the font so it's just a generic, nice and easy font to read, and I put in there a sentence starter: from this page I found out. And that makes answering that conclusion very quick, very swift, because it's the start of pretty much every conclusion. From this page I found out this, that and the other, and it just helps me out. Then I start duplicating, so I right click, I go to duplicate slide, and I just keep duplicating and duplicating and duplicating. So there I am having a play about with titles. Now this is one of the questions I asked. It's like, what do I put in each bit? How many pages do I do for my investigation? Well, that's entirely up to you. Unfortunately, we can't say do 5 pages of investigation or do 2 pages of investigation. It's your investigation. It belongs to you. You decide what you need to research. But as a guide, I've got a few slides there. So I've got a page on the client. So I'm going to do some interviews for the client, and I'm going to ask my client, the user who's going to use my product, a series of questions, and they're going to answer them, and I'm going to collate my information. I'm going to put all my information on that slide. I think the second one was a product analysis, really important there. So I'm either going to get a product that already exists that does the job I want it to do, and I'm going to take that apart and I'm going to analyze it, photograph it, add those kind of things in there. Or I'll just pause it a second. Or I'm going to go and I'm going to look on the internet. I mean, if I can't access a product live, then the second best thing is to research on the internet. It's not ideal, but it's something that we can do from home. And I'll probably look at 3 or 4 different versions of products that already exist that do similar jobs or have properties of materials that I want to copy, I suppose, for my design. So maybe I want something heat proof. So I'm going to look at heat proof methods of holding things like coffee cups or something like that, so I might want to look at those. There is a video that I did on product analysis, so if you're unsure I might link it at the end of the titles. And I did an ergonomics page, so looking at how comfortable I'm going to make it, so how safe I'm going to make it. I could look at costs, I could look at sustainability, how I'm going to make sure that when I'm building my product and designing it, I'm going to keep it safe and sustainable. All different ideas there. Now this is the only exception so far to the folder, and I've created a table. I've got 3 columns, and it's for my specification. It's really important. So again, I'm going to make sure that everything links together, and it has the fonts are all done together, and it's got that theme now, so everything's starting to balance and look nicer. And when I come to start filling these pages out, I'm going to be like a bit relieved, because it's like, oh, I've already kind of done most of it. I'm not looking at a blank page, so it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, cool, that's quite good. I like that. I actually had a 4th column. I can always forget to do this, but the 4th column just for me is just sort of list the actual points I'm looking at. So form, function, sustainability, cost. And it'll remind me as well when I get back to that page, oh yeah, I need to do a bit of research on biomimicry, or I need to do a little bit of research on sizes. So this part's quite important really. So I'm looking at form, function, size, cost, sustainability. I've also talked about biomimicry because I want it to kind of link in to that. If you haven't looked at biomimicry yet, I suggest we have a research page on biomimicry because it's fantastic. I might even do a video on it if you make a suggestion, but otherwise go and have a look at biomimicry. The user needs, material components, so what bits I might need for my product that it's got to have, so like wheels or handles, that kind of thing, and then safety, of course. And then you can literally see I'm just copy and pasting. My product must, or my product will, like I've talked about in a previous video on the specification. Again, might link that one at the end as well. But if you've subscribed, then you can just follow my playlist, and I always link the playlist in chronological order. So it'll start with the challenges at the top, and then you'll just go through research and help with that. You see there, I just left. In fact, let's just pause that quickly. I've just put example, because as I start typing and start writing out my information, I've kept my font sizes to size 10. That's really important. So font size is really small because, I mean, you could type them bigger if you want, but then shrink them down because you want to put everything on one page. You don't really want to be spreading out too far because remember, we have a limit to the size of those pages we can have, 20 to 30 slides, 20 to 30 pages. So there I'm just sort of typing example to see how far it's going to drop down. So if I have a small paragraph like that, you can see that specification is going to get really quite filled up. And I might even have to shrink this down as well and shrink that down a little bit as well. So I've moved the conclusion so it's to the side. So there I am, just having a play about with it. And then I duplicate this because I know that I'm going to do it. It's part of the whole project. We have to do the review of ideas. And I copied my specification for it. Now a little tip for you. You can see over here I've actually just got a space for my specification points. And all I'll do for this is I'll copy the spec points in here. and then I could just add extra columns if I need to. But when I've done my design ideas, I can put idea 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, and then I can say, does it meet the sizes, does it meet the form, does it meet the function, and I can objectively review that from my own point of view. Now here's a suggestion for you. This is something I would do, but it's not something you have to do. I think it's something that's useful, and I'll show you why it's useful in a moment. Here I've got a client user feedback form that I've generated, so questions to the client about the design. So I've got question 1, question 2, and then here I've got the user's opinion, and then I decided I'm going to have a second user's opinion as well. So it's copy and paste, copy and paste. So most of this is all copy and paste work at this point. But already, if I come to look at this page and I've got to do the review of ideas, I'm going to be looking at this and going, oh, well, all I've got to do is just put the information in. It's already set up. Now, this is going to be something that you'll probably do if you started in September. You'd probably get into the review of ideas at sort of somewhere around November time if you're working at a very fast rate. So to have that already set up in the back end of July is going to be really helpful. I mean, some students might, hopefully, from my point of view as well, if you just start beavering away on this now, you might be at the review of ideas by the time you get to September. As long as you're in contact with your DT teachers to make sure that the work you're producing is of a good quality and it can get to the top marks, then why not, I suppose. And again, I've just got to look at that and go, oh yeah, I remember now, I've got to do this. And by asking the clients their opinions, that's massively powerful. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what questions to write, that's up to you, but you could formulate a couple of questions to the client. So what do you think to this, what do you think to that, and then their feedback will form part of your conclusion, and it'll affect how you design it. So they might say, oh, actually I don't want a handle here, I want a handle on the side, or would it be better, can we have bigger wheels or smaller wheels, can we move it this way, or can we have it this colour? And then your designs will evolve from that. Now you'll notice, I'll do this very quickly on there because obviously I've sped this up by 200%. Give a little subheading as well, what it is. I've copied that, so here I've got my spec and then I've got my review, and in between there I'm going to put the design pages. And again, look, I've changed that font size down to 10 to make sure I can cram it all in, and I'm already thinking I'm going to have to fill out quite a lot of information here, so I'm just testing that. So I just copied another investigation page, and you can see I've just showed you it's between those two, and it's called design ideas, and I've called it design ideas, and I've just put like 1 next to it, so I've numbered that. This is design ideas page 1, this is design page number 2, this is design set of ideas number 3 or 4, whatever it is. And I've got rid of the conclusion, so I don't need a conclusion on the design ideas because it's going to be part of that process. So there you go, I've got 3 design pages now, then the review of ideas. After that, again, I've copied another design page, and quite simply it's just a case of adding in development now. Now development's a hard one because a lot of students go, oh, what do I develop, which is why I put question marks there. I've gone for computer-aided design, so the first thing I'd do after a review of ideas is I'd go into Google SketchUp, I might go into TechSoft, or I might go into Circuit Wizard, and I might start putting my ideas into a 3D form, or testing something on a simulation, or seeing it into different colours, whatever it is, or making quick changes. So that's why computer-aided design is really good for that. So I looked at CAD first, then I looked at model making out of card, and I think I looked at fixings, I think maybe something like that. I go back in the end anyway, and I add some more pages in. So here's the review of chosen idea, which is new to our specification. So you do your designs, design. You do the review of ideas, so you get your feedback from your users. You decide which of your ideas needs to go take forward. You develop that idea, you develop it a bit further, and then once you've developed it as far as you can go, you then review it again, and we review it against the spec point. So has the chosen idea been improved by the user, and has it met all our specification points? And again, this is an opportunity here to add in a photograph or a sketch or a drawing of what the final idea might now look like. Again, I've left the user group feedback on there because it's just quick and it's really useful. So if you can ask the users again, well, what do you think about it now? And they're going to inform, again, your conclusion. So the users might say, oh, it's really good, but again, can you tweak that? Or actually, yeah, we really like these ideas now. Let's take it forward into a product. So after the review of chosen idea, for me, I want to build something. I'm going to do an orthographic projection. So I'm going to do a scale drawing of a front view, side view, and the top view. And drunt, exactly, I spelled that wrong. There's so many spelling errors in here, it's unbelievable. But luckily for me, I can right click and use the spell checker to make sure it's right. So I do top view at the top, of course, front view, bottom left, and then side view to the side of it. And then just to make sure I don't get confused, I put a diagonal line so I don't put anything in that space there, so that space is out of the way. And on this drawing, I would add in all the measurements so I know how big it's going to be, and it'd be very detailed, this drawing. It'd probably take about a week to create. Lesson time, of course, so we're talking about 3 hours ish to make that. And then after that, I'd do a final drawing, a presentation drawing. I mean, that's just the designer in me that does that. I would advise it, if you've got the time to do it, definitely do it. I'm going to go for a 2-point perspective, a technical drawing. We want to see a range of different design ideas as well, so don't just do everything sketches. That's going to get you very poor marks. So you're going to want to do, like sketching, you want to show us some isometric view, you want to show us an exploded diagram, you want to show us a 2-point perspective, if it's possible a 1-point perspective. Show us your range of designing ability. Now this is massively important and something that I think gets overlooked and left behind, and often you students like to leave this up to the teacher as you think it's their responsibility. It's not, it's yours. This is called the diary of making, and it's where you justify your marks for the practical, because the moderators won't get to see the practical in real life. They'll just get this page, and this will show them all of the work that you've been doing. So they'll see all the processes you've done. So they want to see if you've been working on a lathe, for example, or if you've been embroidering something, or if you've been welding something. We want to see, the moderators want to see that you've done that. So again, this is really quite hilarious here, because I would set that up. I know that's all that information is pretty much a waste of time because you take that off, but as a guide I would have marking out a process. So let's say I'm doing a finger joint and I'm going to make a finger joint box, so I'm going to mark out the finger joints. You can have a photograph of me marking that out so you can see that I know how to mark out finger joints. Then you're going to have a picture from my point of view. You can have a picture of me doing the finger joint, so either on a scroll saw, or maybe I'm on using the tenon saw or coping saws. But you can see me using hand tools, you can see me using a process, so you can see me marking out something, doing it, and then I probably have a photograph of the finished finger joint so you can see it. So it's marking out, doing, and then photo of the finished part. Equally, if I was making a handle, you would see me marking out where the handle goes, you'd see me turning the handle, and then you'd probably see the finished handle. And in the bit underneath I'd say what I'm doing on that photograph, what I'm marking out, what tools I've used, how I've done it, and that then shows the moderator, oh, okay, this person knows exactly what they're doing. And it might be that you have to use a special piece of equipment and your technician or a teacher has to help you. Then show us that. Show a picture of the teacher helping you set up a center lathe for some, or a milling machine, and just put that. You know, I had to have the teacher's help with this. I had to use a router. You know, the teacher had to do the routing part for me, but I marked all the edges and everything. Say that. It's only going to, your honesty here is going to help you. Okay, so you can see here that I generate one of, and then I just leave that blank because I don't know how many I'm going to make yet. So I'll just go three of those pages. I then copy the last page. This is the end bit now. This is the evaluation. And I set this up as like a newspaper article, sort of 2 columns of information where I'm just going to explain each specification point, and I'm going to tell the viewer, was it successful or was it not? And then I'm going to do a life cycle analysis. Now you'll know from the core content. If you don't, then email your form tutor, email your DT teachers rather, and say, look, can you support me with the life cycle assessment, life cycle analysis? Or we might do a video on it for you. We will do eventually anyway, but certainly by the time you get to it, there should hopefully be a video on the life cycle analysis if you've not done that already. But that's really important. You need to analyse how your product's worked overall. So here I go back into the development and actually change some things around. So I actually go, well, packaging. I forgot all about packaging. Am I going to package my product? Is there going to be a page on developing the packaging idea? Probably. and then I did one specialist part. So I've now got 5 pages of development. What's important here is to recognise that development's ongoing, that you might, the project that you're building, say you're building a chair, for example, and you've got the whole product as the chair. The chair's got the back, the chair's got a seat, the chair's got legs that it sits on, that it stands on. Now you might do a development page just on the legs, so it might be designing how ornate the legs are, what kind of grooves are going to be, what kind of patterns are going to be. So that's just a very small part of development for the wider picture. It's not developing the whole product, which the CAD might do. The CAD might look at the whole product and look at different shapes and things, but a development of the legs, a development of the seat. Are you going to add a cushion? In which case we need a couple of pages on development for the cushion. Are you going to sew the pattern on? Are you going to, what kind of pattern are you going to use? You're going to half drop, that kind of thing. So development's a big part, and it can't be, oh, you need to do 4 pages of development, or you need to do 11 pages of development. The development's a significant section of the course, and we can't say you have to do this, this, or this. So it's entirely up to you. But as a guide, I would certainly advise looking at computer-aided design if you've got any. If not, then look at things like pattern, look at things like textures, look at developing the shapes, the sizes of things. So anytime you want to change part of your product, then add that in, and I leave it usually blank because I'm just going to probably put a bit of photograph in there. I might put some text, I might do a drawing, I might add to it later. So it might be a screenshot of a CAD package, who knows. So development's quite a tricky one for us teachers to sort of support you with, because it's your development, it's entirely up to you, so you need to take control. So again, I've just numbered those as development 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then lastly, I go back and just finalise by saying, well, actually we could probably do with having the design brief on the mind map page. Now the design brief, of course, is just what your question is, your theme, and what you're going to do to tackle it. So it might be, well, I'm going to investigate this, and this is my theme, this is the problem I've got, these are my users. So writing the design brief, about a paragraph information, just sort of saying what the problem is, how you intend to solve it, or what kind of things you're going to do to try and solve it, who your client's going to be, who's going to use the product, who needs the product, and that kind of thing. So there you go. So here I have lots of fun copy and pasting that little icon there. So you've seen this from the mind map tutorials that we've done before, and it's something that I'd advise you do. It's something I picked up from looking at the guidance, the revision guides, and I've just plucked that from there. So they've looked at the specification points, really: function, materials, form, biomimicry, sustainability, safety, cost, and the user. And then for me, I like a colour code. Again, it's a design page, so I just end up colour coding these and making them their own. Now this is quite important because as I've said before, on a specification you might want to then go and colour code your specification points. So form might be lilac all the time, and biomimicry might always be sky blue, so that when I'm doing my design work we know what's what. So there I have a lot of fun with these. I quite like curved mind maps. I don't like these straight lines, but if you want to do straight lines, do straight lines. But so there I am having a play with those. And like I said, it took me about 35 minutes to create this from start to finish. But then once it's set up ready to go. And yeah, it makes it nice and easy for us now. We can just come in and add in the content that we need to add in. I even did a little example there of materials. So you might look at timbers, for example, but I kept it in a box because I found that it was quite easier to keep things in boxes and then link to the box with the little tags. I mean, you might want to do it by paper. In fact, I probably advise doing it by paper, to be honest, because you can just draw it at your own leisure. You can add as many little parts to your little legs to your little mind map as you want to, and then you could upload the photograph, which is a nice, simple way of doing it. But it can be done on Google Slides as well. So there you go. So I'm just showing you that I've branched to one area, then that sub branches to something else, and then I've branched to another area, and that sub branches to something else. So there it is. And then I just give it a title at the top, and there we go. So I called it DT NEA coursework folder, I think I called it. There we go. Ready. There, yeah. So sometimes I have a sense of humour. Okay, so let's head back to home base and find out what we've learned in today's session. Okay, so what have we learned in today's session? Today's session we've looked at how to generate a folder and how to set up a little template for ourselves ready to start inputting information on there. Now, hopefully we've managed to answer that question of what kind of things do we need to include. So there are some slides and some pages that have to be included. So of course, initial ideas, the specification has to be in there, a review of ideas, the review of the chosen idea needs to be included. A diary of making has to be included as well, an evaluation, and hopefully a life cycle analysis or a life cycle assessment too. As regards to what fills in between in the investigation, that's kind of up to you, but I've given you some suggestions as to places where I would look, and again with the development areas in which I would look into, so computer-aided design if we have access, looking at things like packaging or elements like I talked about with the chair. So I'd like to end with hopefully a little question that might stoke a few fires, and you might get pondering a little bit about your own work. Imagine that with Google Slides and your own paperwork that you could spend maybe 2 hours a week on design work from now until September. So we're looking at July at the moment. So imagine you spent 2 hours a week on your design work. How far would you get? So, you know, think about that. Think about the student that walks into the academy or the school in September and they've been working for 8 weeks on their research, investigation, design pages and the review of ideas, and they submit a body of work to the teacher to get feedback on. They can have generic feedback on the folder work. Imagine that student drops that off and says, "Oh, miss, there you are, sir. Have a look at that. What do you think? Do you think this is a concept that I could go forward with?" Imagine the look on the teacher's face when you submit all that work. And then imagine the look on the teacher's face if you get there in September and you've not done anything. Now that will be the case for some of you, most of you possibly. But remember, this channel is going to be here all the way, supporting you, guiding you. And please don't be under the false impression that it's just me working behind the scenes here. There's a full team of design technology teachers here to support you. It might just be that I am the vessel of which they can have their voices heard. But we're here to support you and guide you as we would be in the classroom. I know what side of the coin I'd rather be on in September. Like I say, I'll be here releasing videos for you guys every Monday until then. And hopefully after that as well. Okay, so like always, I'm going to drop a video link up here for you so you can catch up on a missed video. And so that you don't miss another video, do remember to subscribe. I think I'm going to be just about here. Click on my face and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another video. And then quite simply you can just select one of our playlists and watch all the way through chronologically from the start of the project all the way down to our help guides on designing and completing research. Until the next one, stay safe. Bye now.